In a peaceful, close-knit village where life moved at a slow, harmonious pace, disaster struck unexpectedly. Torrential rains that started as a drizzle soon transformed into a relentless downpour, and before anyone could react, the streams overflowed, turning into ferocious rivers that devoured everything in their path. People screamed for help, animals drowned, and homes disappeared under the force of nature's fury. Amidst this chaos emerged an unlikely hero, a 34-year-old black man named Emmanuel. Known for his humility and quiet demeanor, Emmanuel risked his life to save a wealthy family trapped in their grand estate. His story is not just about bravery, but about the triumph of humanity over prejudice and fear. What happened to him after this heroic act? Did his village celebrate his sacrifice, or did the underlying biases overshadow his courage? Stick around as we recount this heart-stopping tale of resilience and compassion. The village was a picturesque haven surrounded by green hills and crisscrossed by tranquil streams. Its beauty was a point of pride for the villagers, who lived simple yet content lives. Some residents, like Emmanuel, lived modestly in wooden homes that they built with their own hands. Others, like the Marson family, enjoyed the luxuries of larger estates perched on higher ground. Life in the village was usually peaceful, with farmers tending to their fields and children playing under the sun. But this tranquility was shattered when an unrelenting rainstorm hit. At first, the villagers were unfazed. Rain was common in the region. However, the storm intensified, and soon the streams turned into raging torrents. Water surged into homes, roads disappeared under murky waves, and chaos erupted. People scrambled to save their belongings and families. Emmanuel, from his modest home, watched the unfolding disaster. He had seen floods before, but never anything like this. The speed at which the water rose was terrifying. While most people were focused on their own survival, Emmanuel's attention was drawn to the Marson family estate. The Marsons were among the wealthiest families in the village. Their large estate, with its sprawling gardens and grandiose architecture, symbolized their status. Despite their resources, the Marsons were caught off guard by the ferocity of the flood. As the water surged closer to their home, the family was thrown into panic. Mr. Marson, a stern businessman who was used to being in control, found himself helpless. His wife, a compassionate woman, tried to comfort their two young children, who were sobbing uncontrollably. The eldest member of their family, Mrs. Marson's mother, struggled to move as fear and age took a toll on her. The Marsons had no plan for evacuation. Their vehicles were rendered useless, and their home, once a safe haven, now felt like a trap. With no one to call for help, they believed their fate was sealed. From his home, Emmanuel observed the Marsons' plight. He could see the fear on their faces, especially the children and the elderly grandmother. His heart ached at the thought of them perishing, even though he barely knew them. Despite the peril, Emmanuel made a decision that would change his life forever. He knew that helping the Marsons would be dangerous, but he couldn't ignore their cries for help. Grabbing what little equipment he had, a sturdy rope, an axe, and an old raft he had once built, Emmanuel prepared himself for the treacherous waters. His mother, terrified for his safety, begged him to stay. "You don't owe them anything, Emmanuel," she cried. But Emmanuel's mind was made up. "If I don't try, they won't survive," he replied, his voice steady with resolve. The floodwaters were merciless, and navigating them required immense skill and bravery. Emmanuel's makeshift raft was tossed around like a toy in the waves, but he held on tightly, using his strength and determination to guide it toward the Marson estate. As he reached the estate, he called out to the family, instructing them to stay calm. Mr. Marson hesitated, unsure whether to trust Emmanuel, but Mrs. Marson quickly recognized his sincerity. "We don't have a choice," she said, urging her husband to cooperate. Emmanuel first helped the children onto the raft, comforting them as they cried. Next, he assisted Mrs. Marson and her elderly mother. The latter was particularly challenging to move, as she was frail and terrified. Emmanuel carried her on his back through waist-deep water, his muscles straining under the weight. The journey to higher ground was harrowing. Debris floated in the water, threatening to puncture the raft. The current was so strong that it seemed intent on pulling them under. At one point, a massive fallen tree blocked their path. Without hesitation, Emmanuel used his axe to clear the way, ignoring the pain in his blistered hands. The Marsons watched in awe as Emmanuel pushed through every obstacle. Even Mr. Marson, who had initially doubted Emmanuel, couldn't help but admire his unwavering courage. "Hold on tight," Emmanuel shouted, his voice cutting through the roaring waters. Hours later, they finally reached higher ground. The Marsons were safe, but Emmanuel collapsed from exhaustion. His body, pushed to its limits, needed urgent care. Word of Emmanuel's bravery spread like wildfire. Many villagers hailed him as a hero, praising his selflessness. However, not everyone was kind. Some whispered that Emmanuel's act was driven by ulterior motives, revealing the lingering prejudices within the community. The Marsons, deeply grateful, invited Emmanuel to their home to express their thanks. They offered him a generous financial reward and even a permanent position on their estate. But Emmanuel, true to his character, humbly declined most of their offers. "I did what was right," he said simply. "That's all that matters." Despite his heroism, Emmanuel faced challenges in the days that followed. Some villagers envied the attention he received, while others dismissed his bravery as mere luck. Emmanuel, however, remained focused on his work and his mother's well-being. The Marsons, particularly Mrs. Marson, became his staunch supporters. They helped repair his home, provided him with better tools for his carpentry, and advocated for his recognition. Over time, Emmanuel's story reached far beyond the village, inspiring countless others. Years later, Emmanuel's act of bravery became a cherished tale in the village. The flood, though devastating, had brought out the best in one man and taught the community a valuable lesson about unity and compassion. Even Mr. Marson, who had once been skeptical of Emmanuel, became a friend and ally. The bond between the Marsons and Emmanuel's family grew stronger over time, breaking down barriers of class and race. Emmanuel's name was etched into the hearts of the villagers, and his story was passed down as a testament to the power of selflessness and courage. Emmanuel's story is a powerful reminder that heroes are not defined by their wealth, background, or social status. What sets them apart is their willingness to act in the face of danger, to put others before themselves, and to embody the best of humanity. The flood was a natural disaster, but Emmanuel's response showed that even amidst chaos, the human spirit can shine brightly. His courage not only saved lives, but also brought a divided community closer together, proving that acts of kindness can overcome even the deepest prejudices. Emmanuel's heroic act serves as a beacon of hope in a world often divided by differences. His story challenges us to ask ourselves, would we have the courage to act as he did? It reminds us that even in the darkest times, there is light in the form of human compassion. In the years that followed, Emmanuel continued to live humbly, carrying the gratitude of those he saved and the admiration of those who heard his story. His legacy is not just one of bravery, but of the profound impact one individual can have when they choose to stand up for what is right. Let this story inspire us all to act selflessly, to bridge divides, and to embody the kindness that Emmanuel exemplified so beautifully.